If you probably look into why I collect, and you probably sum it down to like, well, as a child, he didn't get enough toys or some, stuff like that. Who knows? Maybe some psychological stuff. Why I think I collect? I love the art aspect of it. Like, yes, like if I didn't collect the art toys, I'd probably have a whole bunch of other toys, but definitely not as much as this. Like, still love like action figures, and I still love like a nice Lego set every now and then, especially with me having kids now. But like this chaos, it's the art aspect of it. That's really what draws me in. I don't see them as toys. I see them as art. I see them as art figures. Just as much as anybody would see a $10,000 piece of art hanging on the wall, I see the same value in these figures, and that's why I collect them. My name is Ben Goretsky, and I am the founder and owner and CEO of Designercon and 3D Retro. I collect a lot, but mainly I collect vinyl art figures. That really is my passion. If it's a really cool vinyl toy and it's made by an awesome artist that I like, I will collect it. Not that I'm restricting it to vinyl toys, because I do own resins, and I do own a lot of art. Not enough wall space for that, but yeah, I collect a lot of things. There's my Delorian. So, funny story how I got this car. I was 27, and my brother bought himself, we were working together, and he bought himself a Harley Davidson. And I'm like, what the hell, man? You bought yourself a Harley Davidson? You bought yourself like a hog? He's like, yeah, I've always wanted a hog. I'm like, dude, well, what about me? He's like, what? Do you want a bike? I'm like, no, I don't want a motorcycle. He goes, well, what do you want? And I said, well, don't laugh, but I've always wanted a DeLorean. He laughed, but anyway. He goes, you want a DeLorean? I'm like, yeah, I want to own a DeLorean. He goes, that's crazy. What are you going to do with the DeLorean? I'm like, I'm going to ride it around. I love that car. I've always wanted a DeLorean since I was 5 years old. And he goes, okay, I'll make a deal with you. If you find a DeLorean, we'll go look at it, and if it's in good shape and a good cost, we'll get it. And I went on a mission, and I found a DeLorean on eBay. And it was in Orange County at a exotic car dealership. They were trying to sell it on eBay. And it looked, pristine condition, great condition. So I sent it over to my brother. I'm like, I found it. I found my DeLorean. He goes, all right, fine, let's go look at it. We go to the dealership, and I'm like, hey, I'm here to look at the DeLorean. And I'm like, where is it? Is it on the floor? And I see all these Porsches and all these expensive cars out there. And they're like, oh, you're here for the DeLorean. Okay, yeah, come follow me. And they take me into the back room where it's dark. They turn on the lights and there it is. And I'm like, so it's this ugly stepchild that they're keeping in the back somewhere. And they're like, yeah, you want a DeLorean here? It's right here. It's I'm just like, oh my God, it's a DeLorean. It's weird. I've always collected Back to the Future stuff. I remember watching Back to the Future when I was 5 years old. And I fell in love with the movie. I watched it at home on VHS. I remember when it said to be continued. I was like, all right, where's the next one? And I didn't realize that I'd have to wait another 6 years to watch part 2. But I've always collected Back to the Future. Another thing I've kind of always collected is Simpson stuff. I actually used to own and operate and run one of the largest Simpson fan sites out there. But it kind of shifted, and in 2001, I went to San Diego Comic-Con, and I went to the Tower Records booth. There was these things called keys, and there were these bears, and they were the same bear, except all of them had different artwork on it, and the artwork was made by different artists. And that idea just blew my mind. And I was like, oh my God. And I bought my first key bear right there in San Diego at the Tower Records booth in 2001. And that's when I started to fall in love with vinyl toys, and that's when I started collecting them. I love pop icons.
My hero in this kind of collection stuff is Brian Levant. Like Brian's collection, beautiful. For me, I go after Peanuts, Bob's Big Boy, KFC, and Mickey Mouse. I don't hunt these things down. If I ever land on something walking through a flea market or walking through an antique store, and just by chance there's something there that's like I don't have and it's really cool, I will buy it. And especially if it's a vinyl figure, that just adds a little extra touch to it. Aesthetically, I just like placing the figures in a way where I could potentially see everything. Even like if there's figures in the back, I tend to put the taller ones in the back and kind of, you know, make it so that the smaller ones are in the front. So when you look at something, you can see everything all the way to the back. Display-wise, it really is just like how I aesthetically feel it's pleasing to me. And then if there's just like random things, one-offs, I'll just like put them around as long as I can see them, as long as somebody walking around can see them. I love putting them in glass displays. I've tried to do it without the glass and they just get way too dusty. And because most of these are vinyl figures, when you get the dust, you start to get, you know, the vinyl leaching, and then the dust starts getting sticky to it, and you end up like having to clean it and like soap and water delicately. Whereas glass displays it won't keep all the dust out, but it'll keep like 97% of the dust out of there. And it just makes it look more professional. Plus it also kind of gives you like the idea of like when anybody comes to look at your collection, like, oh, it's behind glass, I really shouldn't be touching these things. Where it's like if it was open shelving, they'd probably reach in and be like, oh, look at this figure, and then half the other ones would fall down and you'd be like, you're not supposed to touch those. It's like keeping your fine china behind the glass cabinet, but it's not fine china, it's a vinyl collectible figure. So, what does my wife think about my well, my kids think it's really cool. Dad collects toys. That's awesome. We can't play with them, but that's cool. As long as they get their fair share of toys to play with, it's all okay. I'm a little bit worried because my son has like started like saying like, no, this is my collection, and like he's got his Hot Wheels, and sometimes he's like, I'm like, uh-oh, it's starting already. My wife, oh boy, she's probably watching this. Love you, babe. My wife knows about this, I call it a disease because that's what it is. Collecting is a disease, guys, no matter which way you put it. She knew about this disease when we started dating and when we got married. I think as long as I keep it confined in my office, in my space, I let some of it spill out into the rest of the house. Like we have some cereal figures out in the breakfast area, which are really cool, and they kind of mix into it. We've got some Lucy Sparrow felt figures out there too, and then occasionally there'll be like a bear brick or a figure that she's like, oh, that's actually really cute. So I'm like, hey, it's for your collection. So my wife is accepting of it to a point. She sometimes keeps me in line with purchases. And then my friends are mostly the same. They're collectors like me. When it's like a friend of my wife's that comes over and they start questioning like, what is this stuff? As long as you explain it to them and describe like what exactly they're looking at, they actually find it to be really cool and interesting. So in terms of like grails for me and important pieces, like emotional value, I have a Mickey Mouse figure. It's one of the older ones. It's like the plush body with the vinyl head. It's the very first Mickey Mouse figure that I ever had as a kid. I probably got it from my grandmother when I was like maybe 3 or 4 years old. Probably even earlier than that, but I still have that. I still have that figure. I actually have another figure that holds emotional value to me, which is a Pappy Popeye figure given to me by my uncle around the same age. It's actually a collectible figure, like it's very sought after because it's one of those like big vinyl figures, and I don't know why he gave it to me like when I was like 4, but like he gave it to me and I treated it as a toy, and it's still in good shape, and I have that in my collection over by my desk. Monetary value, it's not even a figure, it's a piece of art. It's my original Drew Struzan Back to the Future alternate movie poster, which I bought. And that to me, like, you know, it's the old saying, like, if the room's on fire, what's the one thing you grab? That's the one thing I would grab, which is weird. I'd let the Mickey and Pappy figure, I guess, burn down, but I'm grabbing my Drew Struzan instead. And then just like, I guess like personal value, or personally for me, it would be the very first vinyl figure that we made as 3D Retro, or that I produced at 3D Retro, and that's our Brandon Ragnar Pepper figure. I guess that holds a little bit more personal value to me because it was the very first vinyl figure that we as 3D Retro produced ourselves. It wasn't a colorway that we got as an exclusive. It wasn't, you know, made by somebody else for us and like we bought it outright. It was a figure that we picked, we got sculpted for us, we got the paints done for us, and we got it produced. It's weird to say as a collector, right? Oh, I didn't get it. It's like, oh, you missed out. No, not really. I didn't miss out. And the reason I don't have that mentality of missing out is because I always have this thought in the back of my head that there's always going to be more. You win some, you lose some. And I think every collector should really have that in their mind. Like, it's okay. There's going to be another Decon next year. And guess what? That Decon is going to have 100 more things that you're going to want to buy. And if you only get 80 of those 100, well then guess what? It's okay, because next year there's going to be 100 more things that you're going to want to buy. It's okay to miss out on some of that because that's part of the game, and I'm okay with that. I am very proud of my collection. I'm not a completist in any sense of the matter. I have a lot, and I probably have more than most. I know that there's people out there that have everything, every piece that a certain artist released, and I'm okay with not being a completist because I'm all over the board with different artists and different brands and different mediums and manufacturers and all things like that. But in terms of like my collection making me happy, it makes me very happy. And a lot of the stuff, as you can see, it's out of the box. And the box has been thrown away. So, which a lot of people are going like, oh my God, man, you threw the box away. Why did you do that? But it's okay because they're for me and they make me happy and they're out on display. And just like in my office, sometimes I just like walk around and look at my collection and I'm like, these are really cool. They just open up to different ideas and thoughts and memories also. Yeah, I'm really proud of what I have, and I have to sometimes hold back and be careful of what else I buy because I know it could be another door into another collection. So it's like, I did that when I decided I want to collect Bob's Big Boys, and when I decided I want to collect KFC kernels, and when I said, oh man, you know, I want to do the Mickey Mouse stuff, but Mickey's dangerous. Like, you collect Mickey Mouse stuff and it's like you can have 3 rooms this size just full of Mickey Mouse stuff. So when I was living alone, pre-wife, I kept the boxes. Like, I need to keep the box. The box is important. What if I sell the figure one day? I need to have the box, right? Makes sense. Well, I realized I'm one of those guys that really doesn't sell my collection. And if I sell my stuff and it doesn't have the box, big whoop. Most likely, the other collectors out there will still buy it. And if they don't, well, I really don't care. So 1, I gave up on the mentality that the box gives it more value. 2, the boxes were just taking up way too much space. And I realized I have a room full of boxes. I'm just like, what the hell, man? Like, I decided I'm gonna throw them away. And 3rd, I realized that half of the boxes that I was keeping as I was throwing them away were by themselves falling apart. The glue was coming undone. The print was fading. Even though they were in a pristine room with like AC, no sunlight, stacked nicely, like these things are made out of cardboard and they're falling apart. Why am I keeping these things? There's certain boxes that are very high end and that doesn't happen. I still threw them away. But for the most part, the boxes out there that were made for most of these figures, especially in the early stages, blister packs and, you know, plastic bags and things like that. You know, sometimes I'll keep a header. I do keep the certificate of authenticities. I keep the little number cards and everything. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's like a stack this big that you can put in a Ziploc bag. And that's it. My Hot Toys, I just put all the extra hands and heads and everything in Ziploc bags too, put the name of the figure on the Ziploc bag, and that's it. And yes, I know that there's collectors out there that want the box, and they don't just want the box, they want the brown box that the box came in. So it's like, you can't win. You just can't win unless you're really gonna just put it in a freaking corner and keep it there for 20 years and not even look at the damn thing. What's the point? You're not gonna enjoy the figure. I take my Hot Toys out. I got all my Avengers laid out, done. First Avengers, the first ones that they would release. I don't have 5 Ant-Mans, I have the first Ant-Man. I don't have 6 Iron Mans, I have the, you know, Mark II or whatever it is. Like, I just don't care. And because of that, I throw the box away. You know, take it out of the box, guys. Play with it. Sometimes I buy 2 and I keep another one in the box.